Welcome to part 2 of my year in review. It's snowing here again, and it's looking like a beautiful blanket of white everywhere. And behind me, you might see the birds just eating away. I have a bird feeder out, so they're enjoying their morning feed. Today, I'm going to cover the 3 garden beds, the last 3. So we're starting with June, and I planted all the vinca plugs early in this month, and also the Veronica was starting to push out lots of beautiful pink spiky blooms, and the rose campion was exploding with vibrant magenta color, and the crepe myrtles were starting to leaf out. Now in July, the Veronica was still going strong, and I had to cut back one of the rose campions, and the crepe myrtle towards the second half of July was exploding with color, looking beautiful and just magnificent. I also had a visitor, a hummingbird moth. And this thing is quite unique looking and very strange. And now in August, the bed was full of color from the vincas. They really filled in and just popped, as well as the rose campion, which came back. And the crepe myrtles lost all their petals because Storm Isaias had come through and knocked most of them off. So in September, we have the vincas that are still going strong and blooming with lots of gorgeous color. And then the crepe myrtles gave me a second flush of blooms, which was so wonderful to see, and a gorgeous, beautiful pink color for the end of the season. And then October, everything is looking very tired, still some color there. So pretty much maintained through the month of October, and then until the first frost in early November. Now in June here in this bed, I had planted a lot of my annuals, my dahlias, my zinnias, my cosmos. And then everything started to show a lot more growth in July. With the dahlias really getting tall and the zinnia starting to put out some buds. And then the sunflowers actually were in full bloom and looking absolutely gorgeous. And then we come to August, and the sunflowers were beaten down by Isaias, but the cosmos and the zinnias were gorgeous and starting to bloom, as well as the dahlias just looking magnificent, with these gorgeous large bloom heads. Absolutely beautiful. September was even a bigger show for the dahlias. These dinner plate dahlias were just spectacular. But the little ones were just as showy and beautiful as the large ones. And this was absolutely my favorite, with this purple and white colored dahlia. And the cosmos and the zinnias were still looking beautiful, putting on even more blooms in this month. And then my hollyhock just looked huge. It's actually 2 hollyhocks. And then in October, the dahlias that were blooming the most were these gorgeous purple and white. These are the Happet Blue Eyes. And then the cosmos were amazing, and those lemonade ones were just looking spectacular. And that brings us into November, where I had the frost that killed off the dahlias. And the question I get a lot is, are you going to dig out your dahlias, or did you dig them out? And the answer is yes. I did dig out all the dahlias that I had in that bed, but unfortunately they were in this heavy clay soil with a lot of moisture, and they were very squishy. And also some of them were pretty rotten. Something ate it through, or it just rotted through. And I did try to save them. I do have them in my basement, but I just don't think they're going to make it. A lot of them are starting to look very wrinkly and pruny. So unfortunately, I think I've lost them all. In this bed, I have the hydrangeas, the Twist and Shout, which are lace cap hydrangea, and they were putting out a lot of blooms during this time, as well as my foxgloves that I added, and then some foxglove seedlings that I had planted in there. I added a bunch of annuals and some catmint and some salvia, as well as some angelonia to this bed. And then in July, the hydrangea was still looking stunning, just getting even bigger blooms and just absolutely gorgeous. Love this plant. And then my foxgloves really were coming and putting out a lot of flowers. There was a lot of growth also in my seedlings in the back there. But my annuals really struggled a lot and just stayed really short for a while. The flowers disappeared, but the angelonia performed really well. Love that plant. Nothing bothered it. So I will be absolutely doing this one again if I can. But the catmint and the salvia sort of also struggled a little bit. But then I have some sunflowers in the back that absolutely were beautiful in this time. Gorgeous, you know, sunflowers with some red and some yellow. Absolutely loved it. Stunning flowers. And now for August, the hydrangea, of course, is still blooming and looking gorgeous. And then my foxgloves were petering out, but these were still doing okay and pushing out blooms. But my annuals were starting to look a little better now. The alternanthera started to fill in, and my little bachelor buttons were actually putting out some new blooms, which was so terrific to see. The angelonia was looking spectacular, and the catmint also looked great, but unfortunately the sunflowers got beaten down by Storm Isaias. And now in September, the hydrangea was putting on this gorgeous maroon color, gorgeous for the fall. And my foxgloves were still blooming at this time, which was amazing to me. I didn't know they bloomed for so long, but my annuals started to really explode and put on some color and growth, probably less pest pressure. The grasses also really started to grow in and look beautiful, and just everything exploded in this bed. Angelonia and the catmint, everything was looking stunning. Now in October, we started to see the change in color into even a deeper burgundy for the hydrangea, but also was still pushing out some new buds, and even some new blooms were starting to show in the plant. On the other side, where it does get more sun, the leaves were also putting on this gorgeous burgundy color and looking just stunning for the fall. The grasses were looking beautiful and also putting on this gorgeous burgundy color for the fall, and my annuals were exploding. The little bachelor buttons were filled with flowers, which was so terrific to see that it came back and looked beautiful. And then the verbena even came back with some flowers. But November, then we had the frost in the very beginning of it, and everything just started really going to bed and ending for the season. They might still look like they're alive, but those were pretty frozen solid and died by the afternoon. So that concludes part 2 of my review, and in part 3 I'm going to touch on some pest problems I had, and then what I'm planning for in 2021. Until then, have a great day and see you next time. Bye.